Hello, friends. I hope you're doing well. This is Tracy Brown. My team and I are trauma-informed non-diet dietitians, and one of our missions is to help people understand the physiology of threat and of safety, of protection and connection, and honestly, how this either improves or impedes recovery efforts. So, if you haven't heard anything about this, just really quickly do a summary is that our philosophy is that eating disorders, chronic dieting, um, mental spinning around calories, and fears of rejection, all these things are all adaptations to chronic stress, disappointments, rejections, trauma, abuse, and learning how to recognize when you're in the present moment and there's no threat versus the sensations of lack of safety inside and how they inform maybe how we feed ourselves, how we ingest our food, how we digest it, how we get it. If you can understand what's happening in your physiology and why your brain is even telling you things that you don't want to be having, but they feel intrusive, when you start to understand that those are threat responses, it makes the intervention that you want to offer yourself so they actually match what your needs are. All right. So in this series, we are going to be talking about fight and flight, freeze and flee symptoms, and we're going to be talking about the symptoms and of course in the where we feel safe and connected, part of ourselves too. And not that it's a part, but these things are all working at the same time and like variable, kind of like dimmer switches on and off in different amounts. Um, but basically, when we feel connected and we feel safe, our physiology and our ability to make decisions, our ability to connect with expansive and creative and all the good stuff. When we're not in, excuse me, in our window of tolerance, we're either in fight or flight or freeze or please. There's some level of back and forth of that, either really slowly or really quickly, depending on the stressor. So today's actually this whole week we're going to be talking about fight or flight. So we're going to do fight or flight, freezer please, and then we're going to be talking about the more connected, relatively safe enough to connect space. All right, so today is fight or flight, and we're going to talk about maybe some of the experiences. So I've gathered kind of information all over the place for the last 12 years, so I've kind of got it on one sheet here. It's not really shareable. Um, some of what I'm going to be reading from right now is from a place called Pathways of Learning, 2019. You can probably Google this if you're a note taker, so you actually can, I'm giving everybody space right now as I'm talking to get pen and paper and start to take some notes, so that way you don't have to re-watch this thing 10 times to maybe take it all in. It helps you learn more. And yeah, that way sometimes, yeah, we just have it at the most important things that felt relevant for us. You've got it on paper and you can review it every day if you need to. Okay. So I'm just going to read for some of this, and some of this is my own observations with clients and myself, and then some of it's going to be some other resources as well. So when we feel like we're threatened, perceived threat, real threat, like of bodily and physical and mental harm right now or from the past, our brain is going to go into instinct mode and shift to survive and protect without our consent. It happens really fast. It's very autonomic. All right. Our sympathetic nervous system, again, the fight or flight part of us that pushes out hormones and adrenaline, is going to be on. Okay. I'm going to jump right a little bit more into like what's not so much what's happening in our thinking state. I'm going to do just physiology today. So I'm going to just jump to the body part. We're going to do some other on Wednesday, talk about our affect and our relationship with our environment, people, ourselves, whatever. So right now, let's just do what's happening in our body. All right. So our nervous system is releasing chemical messengers, hormones to help us survive. So cortisol, fight or like adrenaline, norepinephrine, our heart's racing. Our blood is directed to our muscles, our back, our legs, to run or to fight. Okay, not to your heart, not definitely to your heart to pump that, but that energy is not going to be shunted towards cognitive thinking, compassion, empathy, complex problem solving, that's not going to happen. It's like, how do I have enough oxygen-rich blood to get out of here or to fight? Okay, now sometimes that get directed at ourselves. That's another conversation. Our breathing can be fast and shallow. We are ready to move, and we have to defend ourselves. So whether think you have to defend yourself verbally because you think that people are attacking you, or maybe they are, we might get flushed, and we can get hot and start to sweat. Our mouth can get dry. Our sensory system, our five sense sensory, so our eyes get narrow and change position. We get like looking for the threat, right? Our pupils dilate. We get tunnel vision. We're looking around, we're scanning. So we might be scanning in a restaurant for who we think might judge us, or we might just be literally scanning for tigers. Okay. Our skin gets a little pale because the blood again is going towards our senses and out of like body temperature regulation. That's not the gig for our bodies at that moment. Okay. Our middle ear changes. We don't hear the subtlety of tone anymore. We don't hear prosody. Either it's a threat or we can't notice it. We're focused on listening for threat cues. We don't hear all the frequencies when people talk, or the just the low ones of like threat. Okay. I notice when I'm with someone who's in a threat response, they don't really hear everything I say. They miss some words. People can't always process. We can't always process what other people are saying at a normal speed, if at all. It's hard to filter out background noises, and we just get more sensory hearing anyway. Okay. If the threat continues physiologically, it's hard to sleep, and it's not restorative. Our appetite's turned off, and digestion's reduced in fight or flight. So sometimes we're eating to push down the threat. Sometimes we just lose our appetite, and our immune system's reduced. So we can get sick easier. Okay, so that's some of the physiology of chronic fight or flight, and people hear me talk a lot more about like the restricting, binging, and purging goes along with that, which we are going to talk about. But I wanted people to understand, and this is just a very small list of the physiology that happens when we stay stuck and like pushing away care or not being able to take it in because we're in this threat response. Okay, again, that was just the physiology today. Throughout the week, I'm going to talk in this week, fight or flight. Today we did some body physiology, and I didn't even go deep into like what is probably relevant for a lot of you all who follow me, is that we understand like, why do I not feel my hunger fullness signals when I'm stressed out? Well, if you're in fight or flight, your digestive processes just slow down because again, that oxygen-rich blood has to go to your big muscles to run or to fight, or to mentally maybe try to figure out what's going on, but we don't get very far. We do a lot of spinning. We're going to talk more about that in Wednesday's video. Like, why can I not like know what I know and do what I want to do, especially towards recovery when I'm in fight or flight? What causes that? What's going on? So we're going to talk more about that in Wednesday's video. So if anything was helpful, if you recognize these symptoms in yourself, there's no judgment. Remember, these are autonomic responses. You can't control it. If you are in too much fight or flight and you don't have the resources to grab and locate safety, or don't have a practice of that, or don't even know you're doing it, again, this is autopilot, just like the sky is blue or it's gray or wherever it is with you right now. It's like that just is, it's just happening, it's nature. However, once you learn, like, oh, that's a threat response, my heart's racing when I think about lunch, that's not normal. No, if you're thinking about lunch, you're immediately getting scared in a flight response. One, you're not going to be able to think about what does my body want and what sounds best, and who cares what diet culture says. It's hard to access that. That's just the reality, and it's not your fault. But now that we know that like that's how it works, we can start to use some tools. So anyway, we'll get to the tools section as the weeks go by here. I've talked about this many, many times. So if you're anxious to get, like, well, tell me what to do, Tracy. I would go to my YouTube channel, Tracy Brown RD, and go snoop around for, like, you could put in my name, RD, and Fight, Flight, Freezer, Please, and you're going to get some tools there. I've just, I'm kind of refreshing some of this material, and for those of you who've never learned this before, don't know anything about me or my other work, just jump in where you're at and start to learn from here. And the how and the what comes, you know, and I want to remind you, this is not intellectual cognitive stuff. This is lived experience stuff. So if you want to feel less in fight or flight, you have to like actually have a relationship with that. So get around some relatively safe people, take some space for yourself. You can't think yourself out of threat response. You can witness it and remind yourself that you're relatively safe and okay. And can we be with this? If not, okay, we'll just move on and do what you're going to do. But if you're like, no, like I can tell it's 2023 and I'm sitting at my desk and I can grab it and I know that like my heart's racing, but that's not congruent with what's happening right now. So can I just notice that? And usually even then we'll slow things down. You can start to widen the gap. So, and we can do that with meals as well, and that's how we teach our clients. So anyway, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to Wednesday when we talk more about the cognitive um, look or manifestations of fight or flight, so you can understand, like, oh, that's why I couldn't stop counting macros. Oh, that's why, like, when I'm in that situation, because I think they think what I think, that I get mad when I don't even want to be mad, and I don't want to see them as a threat, and I'm not even sure if they're like judging me. That's how we get there. There's some stuff that's overcoupled with our threat responses that we want to uncouple. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in Wednesday's video. Bye for now.